So I'm Tabitha Schmaltz. I'm a senior technology consultant here at Dean Dorton. Today I'm working with Kristin Linzmeier. We're going to be exploring some options you have for budgeting and planning when it comes to both what Intacct has to offer and also third-party solutions. All right, so here are our objectives for today. We're going to take a look at what is a best fit for Intacct's core budgeting solution, as well as identify the signs that you might have outgrown the budgeting feature as part of core Intacct. So if you were somebody who was originally trying on that polling question to say that you're not using anything at all, you're using Excel, or maybe that you're even using Intacct's core functionality, you might be able to see some signs that you might be starting to outgrow the budgeting feature, in which case we're going to be taking a little bit closer look at 3 options that are available to you to integrate with Sage Intacct. Specifically, we're going to look at Sage Intacct's budget and planning, Mardis budgeting, and then also app computing. All right, so Intacct does have the option to track budgets as part of its core general ledger functionality, so we're going to take a look at that first. The great thing about Intacct's core budgeting is that it comes standard with Intacct, so there's no additional cost to use those budget features. The budgeting module is located inside of the general ledger module. So in addition to being able to budget against time periods like your monthly budget, your annual budget, you also have the ability to budget against all of the available dimensions that you're using. So if you typically create departmental budgets, this is something that we are able to handle out of core budgeting module. We are also able to do a type of forecasting that is not limited just to expenses. We also can plan for some income patterns using budgeting. So if you anticipate that there typically is more income or more expenses during a certain time period, you can make those adjustments as well and kind of look forward to them. Also, by having budgeting in our core solution, we're able to quickly monitor our business's ability to perform those budgeted plans. So we're able to make some business decisions based on the history, and then also take a look at what we have on that forecast and kind of make some simple decisions. But again, this is a tool that's really geared towards smaller companies, simple budgeting needs. If your budgeting need is a lot more complicated, you might be feeling some of the stretch. The basic core budget really supports only the most fundamental functionality when needed when creating that budget. So the best fit for Intacct's core budgeting is going to be those companies who have more of a one and done budget. There's minimal updates and no real need for collaboration amongst many department heads or managers. Some of our clients, maybe that conversation among your department heads or your managers is actually happening outside of the accounting system. So you're having those meetings, you're sending back and forth spreadsheets via email, and then once a budget has been decided on, it's imported into Intacct. The workflow in Intacct for this basic budgeting tool works a lot like a lot of the other imports in Sage. By that I mean that we download a budget template, we manually calculate or we prepare that budget data in an Excel type or CSV type import, and then we populate that template and bring the data into the system. So once that data is imported into Intacct, we're able to use it in financial reporting, we're able to produce budget to actual financials, and we're able to start to manipulate it against our dimensions. Now, the whole point of looking at some of these third-party solutions is because we think that there are times that you can outgrow the core or basic Intacct budgeting solution. It's not a bad thing at all, but if you found yourself with the following needs, you might have to look for a more complex solution. So the first is maybe you have a year-long or longer continuous budgeting and planning cycle. So we are finding more and more customers are having to make adjustments and making decisions, and they need more time to evaluate the budgets. They also need to not have that one and done scenario. They do need to have some updates that happen within the year or within their budgeting periods. You might also be looking for more of a collaboration on that budget. So maybe there's a lot of people that are viewing and they need to manage that budget during the workflow. It could be multiple department heads, managers that are reviewing and editing the budget. You might also have specific people that are responsible for only certain line items, and you want them to only see those certain line items. So this also might mean that your budget process is becoming more painful, all right? So the spreadsheets are becoming more painful. You're collecting a lot of data from a lot of different departments, and you're trying to use that email to share the information with each other, and you're always trying to remember, are we on the most current version of this budget? In addition, we might also be looking for analysis to help align planned strategies that we've put in place with those financial goals. Our KPIs and dashboards that we are typically using to evaluate progress need to be updated constantly. Maybe we're looking at what-if scenarios. So what-if scenarios might be something like, well, what if we plan on moving in 3 years to a bigger facility? Or what if COVID happens and our travel budget needs to adjust dramatically because we're no longer doing a lot with travel, but now we have higher technology needs and people need to be more remote. These are things that we might have to adjust our budget for on the fly. So these would be signs of outgrowth, again, because the core budgeting solution does not offer the ability to be flexible with these types of features. So we're going to take a look at some of the marketplace partners that we have that already integrate with Intacct. All right, so we're going to start with Sage Intacct Budgeting and Planning. All right, so Sage Intacct Budgeting and Planning is also known as SIBP. This is a spreadsheet-free, cloud-based solution. It has bi-directional integration with Sage Intacct. And what this is it helps your company to streamline the budget and planning life cycle to align your organization and achieve those targets together. So it's going to help you set your annual goals and targets, and we've actually bring in the actuals straight from your Sage Intacct financial accounting system, and then we're able to support a year-long continuous budget and planning cycle that also allows for collaboration from multiple department heads. So you can see how this has the rotation here, showing that we create our budget, we review, we compare it, we make adjustments, and we keep going through this process. But at the same time, we are synced with our accounting software, and we're able to use our budget on an ongoing basis to support our reporting, our budget and actuals, and our spend management inside of Intacct. All right, so these are some of the key features. We're going to do a quick deep dive into each of these separately on the next few slides, so I'm not going to spend too much time here. First is the full and partial budget sharing. So what we're able to do here is we can actually share portions of the budget with different team members. So it might be by department or by a location manager, and we can allow them to have some feedback and to help collaborate on their own budget lines. So the nice thing about this is that everybody is working on the latest version of the budget. Everybody also knows who updated the budget and when they updated the budget. We also can add individuals, and we could say that they have the ability to only view what is happening with the budget, or they have ability to modify. So you can have people that are just taking a look and seeing what's happened without allowing them the ability to change any of your budget lines. You can also save multiple scenarios within a single budget. So like I mentioned, we might have some scenarios that might be happening. We have moves to bigger facilities. Maybe we want to launch a new division. We want to see how those costs are going to have to play out with a simple scenario on our budget, and we can have a better idea of how we should handle that process. With the native bidirectional synchronization with Sage Intacct, we actually have a wizard-based function that basically pulls in the Intacct data easily while we're creating our budget. So this ensures that our financial data, our account structures, dimensions, everything that we've set up inside of the system to work with you are still reflected in our plans. They're easily shared back and forth. We're not having to copy them out to our spreadsheets or update formula cells. We also, after we've made adjustments into our budget, we can import back and forth. So that import, we can actually bring the actuals directly from Intacct, and then we leverage that within SIBP when creating a budget. So then we export the budget back into Sage Intacct, and we can compare current performance against the budget. So they become, even though two separate tools, they become really linked together to share the data. Lastly, we're going to talk about the financial models with the formulas and what-if scenarios. So in this case, we're actually able to create formulas for budget assumptions based on different financial models, and we can save them to our library so we can actually share the financial models with budget reviewers and show them how we're calculating the numbers. So that's always fun when you have a line item and it might be travel, for example, and you say, okay, well, we're going to budget $5,000 this year for travel, and someone says, well, how did you come up with that number? So by putting the formulas in place, we can actually show them how we are calculating the numbers right on the screen. So let's talk about the what-if scenarios. Maybe there's something that might happen, like the potential move to a new building. So while this is super exciting, the move can actually create challenges and changes that we need to account for in the budget. So what we do is we can build a scenario, and we can build any number of scenarios so that you can have more than one while planning to use as a basis for different budget proposals. So we can compare those scenarios against each other, against the budget, and then we're able to leverage insight to develop a budget for the company. So by allowing us to create these what-ifs and these forecasts, we're able to plan for the future after we've already created our budget. So we don't have to wait until next year to come up with what this is going to look like. And we can save these forecasts as different versions. And we can compare each of the versions against each other to see how the estimates compare. And the really cool thing is that once we've decided that a what-if scenario or a forecasted idea is no longer fictitious, it's something we actually want to integrate into our budget, we could do so with a simple click of the button. I'm going to actually take you in for a closer look at Sage Intacct Budget and Planning just a little bit later after we take a look at the other two solutions. All right, so Kristin? I don't know if she's on mute still.
I must be. Can you hear me now?
I can. Okay.
All right, perfect. Thanks, Tabitha. Yeah, so as Tabitha said, I'm going to take us through a few other marketplace partners today and spend a few minutes on each of those. Again, these are marketplace partners in that budgeting and planning space. And the first one that I want to talk about today is called Mardis Budgeting, Forecasting, and Reporting. So Mardis is a cloud-based solution that provides very robust budgeting, forecasting, and reporting, as its name describes there. It is said to be the leader in nonprofit budgeting and forecasting for those types of organizations and businesses, but that's not to say that it can't be a solution for those organizations that are not in the nonprofit space. It has a very seamless integration to Sage Intacct, all pre-built, of course, which makes the implementation very quick and easy. So the robust functionality, that rapid implementation, and then the affordable pricing with Mardis all contribute to an easily attainable ROI with that solution. So with Mardis, budget worksheets are created automatically in seconds, and they show current year activity and budgets as a reference. Mardis includes widgets to optimize the budget data entry, and it also uses in-worksheet calculations for different budget details. It's also very easy to engage leadership teams in the budgeting process by allowing users to actually enter in line item notes within the budget itself. So with Mardis, you're able to analyze, in-progress budgets as they are being built without having to reassemble different spreadsheets. So this also means that there are no spreadsheet links or formulas to break, which is always a good thing. Mardis offers position-based personnel budgeting, and this includes multiple pay types for compensation-related costs, and it also supports all types of pay frequencies. You can have multiple personnel budget scenarios, which makes it easy to set up many different projections and conduct mid-year changes as you're going through the year. And you can also easily allocate personnel costs across all departments. And finally, it's just a one-click post into the Mardis budget, so very easy to get that going. Now, in terms of reporting, Mardis offers flexible pre-built reports that help provide key decision support and financial analysis information. So there's extensive, budget to actual comparisons that are available. And the nice thing is you do have drill down capability into the Intacct transaction level detail, including the source documents. So users can interactively select, date ranges, dimensions, and different views to produce graphical reporting of these financials and statistical data. As you can kind of see in the screenshot, shows a few of those here. And in addition to all that, the user access is secure and it can be restricted based on permissions. Okay, so moving on to the next one to highlight, the partner that we're going to talk about is called App Computing, and specifically the budget engine that they have available. So App Computing's budget engine is another cloud-based financial planning program, and it offers a complete solution for corporate performance management. Kind of the nice thing or the little nuance with App Computing is that it also includes multi-currency consolidation. So if you are an organization that works in multi-currency today, you could definitely benefit from looking into this solution. It has comprehensive pre-built data models, which really eliminate the need for spreadsheets. Again, kind of a common recurring theme with these different marketplace partners here. And the integration with Sage Intacct makes it really easy to implement, usually within a day or two. You can also sign up actually for a 30-day free trial on their website. So if you browse out to appcomputing.com, you can go ahead and sign up for that and take a peek into what the solution really offers. It's easy to collaborate in App Computing, so managers or different stakeholders can get into the system and they're able to see, the latest information. All of the data is secure. It's centrally managed with user access, really controlled in a granular fashion if you want it to be that way. And then internally, the data is managed through optimized workflows and different views to basically keep it all very well organized. So the budget data in App Computing is version controlled. As you can see here, the data basically, or the different budgets, I should say, can be instantly replicated for forecasting purposes or scenario building, kind of like Tabitha was talking about before. And you don't have to worry that you're going to alter or corrupt the current budget that you're working with because you're creating different versions of that particular budget. So for example, the current master budget might have multiple versions, and then as you see in the screenshot here, you can really easily compare the different versions side by side. Now, the part of the system that kind of houses all the data and pushes to these budget engine spreadsheets are going to be these different modules that users will be able to enter data on. So as you see here, they're basically available to help you again, enter data. They're simple forms. You fill in fields here. So I have a quick screenshot of the HR employee record as an example, where a user would basically populate simple information like the name, hire date, salary, benefits, that type of thing. And then a pre-built system formula will automatically calculate what it needs to there and apply it into the relevant budget spreadsheets. So no further action is really required by the user, which again reduces that potential for user error. And that same type of logic can be applied across all of the modules, including, I have another screenshot here of the sales projection module. So finally, with App Computing's budget engine, it does have a built-in multi-entity consolidation, which applies automatic currency conversions and eliminations of intercompany transactions. The system presents consolidated financial statements as well as consolidated budget forecasts. And as I stated earlier, the integration with Intacct is very quick and easy. The general ledger data is selected by fiscal period, and it can be fully custom mapped into App Computing's budget engine. The data is instantly transferred from Sage Intacct with just a click of a button. And in addition, from each spreadsheet, users can drill down and see that transaction level data like I had mentioned in the Mardis solution as well. So as the screenshot shows here, there's different data reports and interactive charts that are available and can be configured and kind of customized on the fly by any of the end users who have permission. All right. So now I think we're going to switch back to Tabitha, and she'll show us a little bit more on the SIBP solution.
Yep, let's go ahead and take a look. Okay, so I'm actually already logged in here to Sage Intacct's Budget and Planning. So I know there's a lot of information here. We're kind of feeding by fire hose, but hopefully this will help you to take a look at how the budgeting and planning process could be more easy to put your hands around. I mean, I know it used to be a really simple process, less hectic, but that was when your business was small. And so now that we're creating these larger pieces, we have to kind of find ways to be able to adjust, to have more input, and be able to work with new constraints. So we're going to go ahead and just start here. I'm going to come into the inputs of our budgeting and planning. And I'm actually going to start here with our license and permits section just to show you some pieces. So the first thing is, like we mentioned before, this is a collaborative environment. So if I click here on these 3 ellipses here, I have the ability to share this line item. So right now, I'm the only person who has access to this portion of the budget. But if I wanted to add somebody else, let's just say, for example, my buddy Kristin wants to collaborate on this with me, I can go ahead and just invite her, and I can say I would like her to be able to modify or to view this specific line item. And we do have additional abilities to limit whether she's working in the working budget or if it's going to be a specific scenario I'd like her feedback on. We can adjust that as we'd like, and then I can send the invitation to her. So that allows us to have quick and adjustable collaboration with our teams. Okay. Now we're going to come here, and I want to click on this function icon, again, still in this specific line item inside of our budget. And we can actually see how we can use our formulas that we were originally creating inside of Excel, and we can actually just create that right in here. So I might say, well, this is going to be a specific number divided by another number, like a calculation. We can also pull in some modules, like I have our average airfare cost, average hotel cost. These are assumptions that we've already set up in the system. I can pull those into my calculations as well. This helps us to get away from those Excel-based references, the cell references that always get broken every time we're updating larger spreadsheets. Okay. If I scroll down here, we can see the dimensions portion. So we are able to see any portions of dimensions that we've already activated inside of our Intacct system. So we have all of our departments available, we have our locations available, and then we also have our categories. So if we would like to tag any of our dimensions for this specific budget, we can do that as well. Now, if I look at our travel section, I'm going to go ahead and change gears here. So we can see that this, I apologize. So there is a model here, the travel line here. If I click this little arrow, this takes us into the assumptions that we've pulled into the system. So you can see I've made some assumptions about what our average airfare cost, hotel costs, and maybe other costs that we have for travel and what those are and how we're going to make adjustments. Also, if I come here to the number of trips, this is where this budget's going to be really helpful because I have the ability to say, based on these assumptions, how many trips do I think that our firm will take? So maybe we have some conferences coming up, maybe you know, there's different client implementations or anything like that where we might need to travel. I can actually just simply come in here and make adjustments to how many trips we're going to be taking during a certain time period and being able to adjust based on our assumptions that we have here at the top. The other thing we have here is this map button. So if I click a map based on this assumption, I can see these assumptions here, and I can also see what budget lines we're using them for. So for right now, these specific assumptions are only being used for our travel budget line. But if we had additional budget lines that also relied on the same assumptions, we'd be able to see those here as well. I also want to show you, let's go back over here to our main. I'm going to click on the scenarios here. So we've created a new scenario here called moving to a new office. So a scenario is a way that we can go ahead and make adjustments and kind of see how things are going to play out without actually changing the budget until we're ready. So if you look here, we can see that our rent is a certain dollar amount, or I'm sorry, I'm still on travel. Let me switch to rent. Over here on the side, there's certain categories that have turned blue. These categories are the ones that are being affected by the new scenario. So my rent is one that is going to be affected. Obviously, for moving, our rent may not stay the same. So if I click on this rent, I can see this breakout here, and I could see that while January through September, my rent was one amount, in October, we had an increase in our rent. So this is part of the assumptions and that we are making with this specific scenario and how things might be different. Now, if we decided at some point that this proposed scenario is something that would be something that is going to be permanent, I could click on these three dots here and say merge with budget, and then this becomes no longer a scenario, but it becomes our new actual. Okay. I'm going to take you over to another report here. So here we're actually able to take a look at a P&L breakout. So this is just takes all of our budgets. It's a budgeted P&L. So we have our budgeted revenues, our budgeted expenses, and we're able to take a look at all of these scenarios or these pieces of information. Now let's say that we wanted to evaluate this as a move to the office, but we wanted to see how the move to the new office actually compared to what we had budgeted in the past. I can actually change this to a move to new office versus the budget, and we can see the specific line items that are actually having changes for those time periods and what those changes are. So, you know, is there going to be a huge net difference? Early on, it looks like it's just small dollars, but as we get further into the year, we can see how the change in that scenario affected our budget overall. We can also see the areas that are hit the hardest. So in this case, it might be rent. There's some bigger changes. Obviously, moving to a new office isn't going to affect things like our benefits or our travel. So we can make adjustments based on that. The next area I want to show you is going to be if we go to, go back here. There we go. If I go to our budget here, we have the ability to view this in multiple stages as well. So right now this is just the budget, but I can view my budget monthly. I can also change this to a quarterly view, and we could even change it to an annual view if that's the most important piece of information. So we have the flexibility to change the time frame, which is really difficult to do in a spreadsheet. So while you may mostly be doing most of your budgeting by the month, having the ability to make quick changes to view the information differently is something that you will not be able to do inside of QuickBooks and may be a little bit harder to do you know, in some other tools. Okay. The last area I want to show you is our dashboards. So inside the dashboard, we're able to get a good glimpse of everything that's going on with our existing budget. This is an interactive dashboard. I have it set. We can set it just for our budget, just for a specific scenario if we want to see, or an interactive. And I like the interactive because as things change, let's just say airfare has gone up, so our average plane tickets aren't $700 anymore. Instead, they're going to be $800. I can simply come in here, enter a new dollar amount, and all of my charts will change to go with that. So again, if our hotel fees change, and maybe instead of $1,000, we're now paying $800. I can make that adjustment as well. And again, all of my spreadsheet or all of my forms here will automatically change. Let's say that I'm going to make this one a pretty substantial change so we can see how this will show you the differences between your original budget and the new modified amounts based on those interactive assumptions. So these widgets here, you know, they adjust to help you to see what's going to happen based on whatever information and whatever assumptions that we've built into the system. And you can add additional widgets and you can add additional assumptions at any time. Now, the last piece here is just this little sync button up here at the top. If I click this, you can see that it does have company information here. So this is where your Sage Intacct credentials would be to help sync this information back to Sage. As soon as our collaborations are done or any changes are being made, if we want to sync this information back, only the approved budget is what's going to sync back into Intacct. So this will sync that budget that we created collaboratively and securely back into Sage. And so now it can be used inside of Sage for actual budgeting, actual budget versus actual, that was a tongue twister, for our real budget versus actual reporting. While still allowing everybody to have some insight and some feedback into the budget process. All right, so that is it for me. Yelena, are there any questions?
Which product would you recommend for a company that isn't very savvy but still wants to move off of Excel? And how long do these products take to implement?
So I think the simple question to that would be, if you're very simple and still using Excel, you may start off with Intacct's core solution. So we would want to take a look and see what we could do with the core solution first. And again, we would love to talk to you. I guess I didn't share my last slide. You can always email anybody here at Dean Dorton. You know, Kristin and I or another member of our team would be happy to help evaluate your budgeting needs and see which of these is the right tool. Now, depending on how, even though you say you're a smaller company or just getting started, your needs may depend or may dictate which solution's the best one, and then we can help provide a timeline for how that would get implemented.